Unexplainable nightmares, 3 sinister true road trip horror tales that will chill you to the bone. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting eerie shadows as Tom, a father driven by protective instincts, gripped the steering wheel harder. Beside him, Michelle's anxious gaze scanned the desolate roadside, her heart pounding with an unshakable feeling that something wasn't right. Their 2 children, Jake and Lily, sensed the tension in the air, their innocent banter a weak buffer against the creeping dread. "Let's make this trip memorable," Tom had declared, trying to shake off the stress of work. Yet, as they made their way down dusty backroads, the forgotten towns with their crumbling facades formed a backdrop to an unsettling sense of isolation. Hot air clung to their skin, heavy and suffocating, pulling over at an abandoned gas station, broken glass crunched beneath their feet. "What do you think happened here?" Jake asked, eyes wide with curiosity. Tom laughed off Michelle's unease, insisting it was just the thrill of the unknown. "We're just adventurers exploring," he said, but the chill racing down Michelle's spine told a different story, a story of abandonment, secrets, and escape. Minutes later, they arrived at the near-empty diner. The patrons turned, their eyes boring into the family as if expecting them. An unsettling silence enveloped the small space. Tom offered a nervous smile, but Jake felt his stomach churn. Back in the car, Tom felt an inexplicable urge to glance back. For a split second, he caught a shadow moving in the dim light, tightening the knot in his gut. Just the wind, he reassured himself, even as Michelle's hand trembled next to him. The darkening twilight brought Lily's innocent voice, piercing the silence. "Daddy, there was a woman in white," she shrieked, pointing at the side of the road. Tom chuckled, trying to ease the tension. "It's just your imagination, sweetie." But still, unease festered within him, a gnawing sensation that wouldn't let go. Just then, a harsh ping rattled his phone, cryptic texts asking about their whereabouts, warnings scribbled on napkins at every stop, like unwanted echoes of impending doom. Panic tightened around them, the family dynamics shifting as their curiosity turned into growing fear. Then, in a moment of horror, Jake vanished. "Where's Jake?" Tom's voice cracked as the world shifted into chaos. Frantically searching the desolate area, shadows danced around them, their cries swallowed by the overwhelming silence. "He's just lost," Michelle insisted, though her voice trembled. As the local sheriff arrived, a chill gripped the air, the man's unsettling smile hinting at secrets they couldn't fathom. "Kids wander off all the time," he shrugged, as if their fear was merely a nuisance. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With desperation climbing, Tom and Michelle stumbled upon the dark folklore of the town, piecing together sinister tales of disappearances, hauntings, and despair, whispers of a family that might never leave. The walls seemed to close in, the air thick with impending doom. As they reached the darkest part of the night, trust crumbled faster than their will. They realized the danger wasn't just out there. It lurked close to them, threatening their very bonds. Jake's name echoed into the void, calling for help that seemed to never arrive. They stood broken and afraid, each moment dragging deeper into the unknown. Fear consumed them as a crackle pulsed through the broken radio. "It's not safe to trust anyone, you're being watched." The family froze, trapped. Who or what were they really fighting against? In that chilling moment, the real nightmare began. The darkness thickened around them, heavy and ominous. Tom fumbled with the car door, urgency clawing at his throat. "We have to find him," he said, gripping Michelle's arm. The air felt charged with a different kind of electricity, an unseen threat lurking in the shadows. "You want to find him here," came a voice from behind. The sheriff's smile twisted into something darker. You'll want to keep looking, but maybe it's best to let things be. Tom's heart raced at the calculated menace hidden in those words. Let things be? My son is out there. Michelle shouted, disbelief morphing into anger. Just as quickly, the tension snapped like a frayed wire. The sheriff merely nodded, his eyes glinting with a knowing cruelty. Keep your eyes open, he said softly, stepping back into the encroaching gloom. The night doesn't show mercy. With that unsettling farewell, he turned, leaving them alone under the watchful eyes of the whispering trees. Tom Michelle breathed, voice barely rising above a whisper. The shadows seemed to inch closer, clawing for their souls, every instinct warning them that time was ticking away. In that moment, Tom felt a visceral pull to the woods lining the diner. Lily, he said, stay close. He held her small hand tightly, feeling her body tremble. Uncertainty hung in the air. We'll split up. I'll check the woods, and you search the diner. No. We can't, Michelle gripped his arm, panic flaring in her eyes. What if Jake needs us? Tom snapped. He forced her grip off him and began to move toward the tree line, fear sharpening his focus. As he stepped into the dense thicket, the world felt distorted. The shadows stretched and moved like sentient beings. Each rustle of the leaves sent shivers down his spine. He called out, his voice quaking, Jake. Silence wrapped around him like a shroud. Every step deeper into the woods felt like a frozen mile. Desperation warred with dread, shadows flickering in and out of his vision. Where are you? He pleaded, heart racing. Suddenly, something caught his eye, a faint shimmer among the trees. He rushed toward it, hope igniting only to be snuffed out as he found a children's bracelet lying in the dirt. It wasn't just any bracelet, it was Jake's. The familiar stripe of blue against dirt felt like a death sentence. Panic surged through Tom. Jake! He yelled again, voice cracking. And then he heard a low rumble, like distant laughter echoing through the pines. It chilled him to the bone. He squinted into the darkness, searching for any trace of his son. Please! He begged into the void as the laughter grew louder. The branches whispered, you shouldn't have come here. You're not alone. Tom stumbled back, heart pounding. He felt like a hunted animal being watched, surrounded. He dashed back toward the diner, breathless and terrified, only to find it shrouded in an eerie fog. Michelle. Lily. No answer came except for the growing dread in his chest. The diner's lights flickered as shadows danced across the windows. Was it just his mind, or did he glimpse another figure in there, one in white? Panic surged anew. Where are you? He shouted, but the only response was the unholy chorus of that laughter mingled with whispers, taunting him, warning him, what was happening? They had walked into a trap, and now they were in too deep. The night was alive with chaos, closing in, hungry for family blood. Just then, he noticed something strange at the edge of the fog, a figure emerging. His heart raced as he recognized the silhouette. Jake? He called, voice wavering between hope and terror, but the figure halted, face hidden in shadow. Daddy, help me. The words slashed through Tom's heart as the fog thickened around him. Had it really been his son? Or was this another cruel trick? The air thickened with dread. Come to me, Jake. He shouted, pushing through the fog, only to falter when the figure stepped closer, revealing not Jake, but an unnatural grin too wide to belong to a child. An icy dread gripped Tom. What had he just unleashed? The haunting laughter echoed once more as the chilling truth began to unfurl. They weren't just lost, they had awakened something that demanded sacrifice. Tom! A scream broke through the night. It was Michelle. But where was she? Panic-stricken, he turned, but the shadows already swirled around him, hope evaporating like morning dew. Ahead, the fog thickened until he was engulfed in oppressive darkness. What had started as a road trip was now a descent into the abyss, what price would they pay to escape? Suddenly, the laughter echoed back, the night forever changed. The silence swallowed him whole. Tom's heart thundered in his chest, each beat dragging him deeper into despair as he spun around, trying to locate the source of Michelle's scream. The fog was thick now, clinging to his skin like a second layer, suffocating and sinister. Michelle. Lily. His voice echoed, drowning in the suffocating blackness. The laughter faded but left behind a haunting echo that taunted him. He pressed forward, each step feeling heavier than the last, as if the ground itself conspired against him. Tom, the whisper was faint, trailing like smoke in the wind. He stumbled toward it, praying. Tom. I need you. It rose above the suffocating fog, just a hair's breadth louder. But where was it coming from? Was it a trick of the shadows? Was it her? Every instinct screamed for him to flee, to retreat into the safety of the diner, but the fog urged him forward, urging him to unmask its mysteries even as it thickened. He felt a pull, like a marionette on strings, leading him deeper into the woods ahead. Suddenly, the ground beneath him softened, a switch from dirt to something slimy, squelching underfoot. Tom recoiled and looked down. Black muck swallowed his sneakers, thick and fetid, as though the earth wept from some festering wound. He forced a breath, willing himself to push deeper into the unknown. Michelle. He shouted again, voice cracked but desperate. It's coming. She cried, the terror barely masking her urgency. Where are you? But no answer came, just the oppressive silence that sat like a stone in his gut. Then he saw it. A flicker, a soft light, pulsing between the trees. A beacon in the consuming retreat of night. Hope ignited briefly. I'm coming. His feet propelled him toward it, but then the laughter erupted again in chilling waves, mocking, echoing through the dark. Each step felt like a betrayal as the light grew brighter and closer, illuminating the fog in spectral hues. He reached the clearing, breathless, frantic, but stopped dead in his tracks. The light emanated from an old lantern, perched upon a splintered, decaying stump. The flames danced aimlessly as if entrapped by unseen hands, flickering and fluttering, yet casting no shadows. An unsettling warmth prickled Tom's skin, urging him to step closer. Jake! He shouted, heart seizing, revitalizing his hope, but no child appeared. Only the unsettling laughter morphed from mocking to sinister, creeping closer, wrapping around him like a vice. Clutching the lantern, he scanned the area, eyes darting to the thick encroaching woods. The trees seemed to lean in, whispering secrets he was not meant to understand. Then, a figure melted out of the shadows, moving with an eerie fluidity. Tom's breath hitched. It was another child, this one with hollow eyes and gray skin, a grin stretching too wide for comfort. Are you my daddy? It crooned in a voice that wasn't really a voice, echoing from two places at once. The resemblance was uncanny, but Tom recoiled. Jake's hair was tousled, but life had vanished in the depths of those eyes. Where is Jake? Tom's despair melded with rage. You need to play with us, play forever. The child's laugh sounded like glass shattering, deathly sweet yet filled with malice. Behind the figure, shadows writhed, readying themselves, as the laughter grew louder, filling the air with a madness that made Tom's skin crawl. Time twisted and turned, bringing a sense of the surreal. Not just the darkness, but something within him shifted. He felt a thread of anxiety pull taut, unraveling his grip on reality. Leave him alone. Tom screamed, desperation clawing at him as he backed away, but they advanced, the shadows intertwining with the child's laughter. His mind raced, wrestling with desperate thoughts. This couldn't be real. Could it? Every tale of horror he'd ever heard spiraled through his mind. Every warning ignored now clawed fiercely at him. Stumbling back, he felt dread circle his heart, a low growl rising from between the trees. Were those voices? Inhuman whispers slithered around him, insistent, seductive. Suddenly, a chill struck. Through him something was watching. And he wasn't just afraid for himself anymore. Tom! Help! Michelle again, this time far weaker. Michelle! Fear erupted. He turned, frantically searching for that flicker of light, the only sliver of hope left, but where was she? The laughter changed pitch, the shadows shifting, swirling around him. The oppressive weight of the woods bore down, and the pulsing glow faded to gray. Something was hiding. Something that would take everything from him if he couldn't escape. In that moment, a bright flash turned the darkness to blinding white. Tom shielded his eyes, bracing himself, as reality rippled around him before the ground lurched, and he was falling. The echoes of Michelle's screams faded like a candle snuffed in the wind. As he slipped into darkness, an unsettling thought bloomed in his mind: what if they were never meant to find each other? And what if escape wasn't an option at all? What price had he paid for the truth? Tom crashed into the ground, the impact stealing his breath. The fog enveloped him again, clinging tighter than ever, nearly blinding him. He gasped, his heart racing. This was not the quiet darkness he'd encountered before. It was a living nightmare, each breath met with the rancid odor of rotten leaves and decay. "Jake!" he shouted, but his voice was swallowed whole, like a pebble dropped into a bottomless pit. The ground beneath him shifted, a wave of cold creeping through the damp earth, coiling around his ankles. He scrambled to his feet, pulling free of the grip of the muck clinging to his shoes. A current of dread coursed through him. This place felt wrong, twisted. Michelle. He reached out into the thickening shadow, desperation clawing at his throat. "Where are you?" No response. Instead, he heard the laughter again. Not just the sinister giggle of the child, but a chorus echoing from countless mouths. The sound dripped with delight at his misery, like a well-rehearsed melody crafted from despair. Tom turned wildly, searching for something, anything that might give him direction. Then, just ahead, in the swirling eddies of the fog, he saw them, figures stepping into view. Faces twisted, grinning wider than was humanly possible. Their eyes glinted with malicious joy, as if they reveled in his confusion. "Come play with us," they sang, voices melding into one haunting lullaby. "No!" Tom shouted, recoiling. Panic surged through his veins. He stepped back, only to feel that monstrous pull again, an unseen force urging him forward, deeper into the throng of haunting specters. With every instinct screaming at him to run, Tom spun around and bolted through the underbrush, branches clawing at him like greedy hands. The laughter chased him, echoing, trailing closer with every desperate step he took. His thoughts were a chaotic jumble. Where was Michelle? Where was Jake? He stumbled into a clearing where the fog thinned, revealing a twisted tree. Its bark was blackened, gnarled, and contorted, as if it had been marked by some unfathomable horror. How had he not seen this before? It felt alive, and a shiver crept down his spine. Memories of stories spun by campfires surged in his mind, tales of cursed woods, of ancient spirits, of children lost forever. What had drawn him here? Was this fate, or had he simply walked into a trap? The laughter intensified, morphing into sobs, then fading like an echo trailing off into silence. The chilling quiet was almost worse, it signaled something's approach. A shadow shifted behind the tree. Tom's heart stopped. The figure stepped into view, a child, dirty and worn, clothes tattered. Jake? No, this was not his son. It was the same child he had seen earlier, the same hollow eyes, but with something more anguish. "Daddy," it whispered, not pleading but demanding. "You left me. You weren't supposed to leave me. Now you'll have to stay." "No!" Tom cried, stepping back. "You're not Jake." The child grinned, a smile that turned Tom's stomach. It drew closer, eyes narrowing, menacing. "You should have played when you had the chance. Now you have to join us." In an instant, the forest erupted with movement. Shadows broke free from the trees, surrounding him like a pack hungry wolves. "Join us!" They screamed, voices overlapping with the laughter, turning into snarls, erupting into madness. Tom stumbled back, adrenaline fueling his legs. The shadows lunged for him, arms reaching out, fingers scraping against his skin like ice. He felt their breath, chilled and rancid against his face. Suddenly, from amidst the chaos, a flicker of recognizable warmth surged through the cold, a soft glow peeking through the fog. Michelle. The name erupted from his lips, desperation clawing at him. He turned toward the light, fueled by the hope that maybe, just maybe, he could reach her. With renewed determination, he barreled through the throng of shadows, no longer afraid. As he dashed toward the light, the grasping hands clawed at his back, pulling him under, but he fought. The glow grew brighter, more intense, promising safety. Just as Tom reached it, he felt freezing fingers wrap around his ankle, yanking him back. The harsh laughter crescendoed, and he tumbled into the bright light. But what awaited him there? What had he truly escaped? As darkness rushed back in around him, Tom's thoughts raced. Was the light a refuge or a deeper trap? The light wrapped around Tom like the embrace of a summer's day, but the warmth quickly dissipated, replaced by a biting chill that gnawed at his bones. Instinctively, he reached out, trying to latch onto the shimmering promise, but it slipped through his fingers like sand. He fell onto a hard, cold surface. Stone? No, soil. The earth was damp beneath him, but it squished beneath his weight, reminding him of the grip that had once held his ankles. Panic surged anew as he flailed about, trying to stand, to escape whatever trap he had landed in. Shadows swirled around him, writhing in anticipation, waiting for him to make a wrong move. "Stay close," a voice whispered through the haze, soft yet domineering. The voice was achingly familiar, laced with a haunting echo that made his heart clench. Michelle? The name came out as a desperate gasp. He staggered to his feet, squinting into the fog, vision clouded by uncertainty. "Don't leave," the voice curled around him, wrapping him in a false reassurance. "They'll take you." Tom took a tentative step forward, compelled by forces he did not understand. The silhouette of a figure emerged, a wavering image, still obscured in the thick cloud. The shadows around him retreated momentarily, as if giving the figure precedence. "Where are you?" Tom pleaded, his voice cracking, urgency twisting within him. As the figure came closer, he recognized the outline. It was her. His heart soared. Michelle's face was pale but intact, her eyes darting with a wild fear that sent a chill down Tom's spine. "Tom! You have to get out of here!" she shouted, but her voice wavered amid the laughter that wrapped around them. "What's happening?" he demanded, trying to get closer. "We have to find Jake. We need to leave." "There's no leaving," she said, a flicker of despair crossing her features. "They want you. I can't help you, none of us can help you." He felt his heart sink. "What do you mean?" "You're here now. We can figure this out." Suddenly, the ground began to tremble. Tom stumbled, throwing his arms out to steady himself. Panic clawed at him as shadowy forms circled closer, closing in, their laughter rising to a fevered pitch. "Stay with us," they sang, their grins widening impossibly. "Join the game forever." The hands reached out from the darkness, frail and bony, grasping at Tom's arms and legs. He could feel their coldness, penetrating the thin barriers of his shirt, winding around his limbs like creeping ivy. "No!" he yelled, trying to shake them off. "Let me go." But they only tightened their grip, pulling him toward the deeper shadows that lay beyond. He glanced back at Michelle, desperation clawing at him. "I'll find you," he promised, though he was not sure if she could hear him over the cacophony of laughter drowning out his voice, and just then, with a sound that rattled him to his core, one of the shadows transformed. A face materialized within the darkness, twisted and contorted, a mockery of a human visage. It leaned close, mouth opening unnaturally wide, revealing rows of jagged teeth. "Don't you want to play?" It hissed, breath fetid with cold decay. Tom reeled back, heart pounding like a war drum. No. Not like this. With every ounce of strength, he lunged for the faint light that flickered in the distance. But the shadows surged forward, an unrelenting tide, dragging him back into the dark embrace that threatened to swallow him whole. In one last desperate act, he screamed, "If I can't escape, then I'll make you pay." But those words fell silent in the fog, lost in the nightmarish symphony as the shadows enveloped him completely, the chorus of their laughter surging to a deafening crescendo, and then, silence, a heavy, oppressive silence. Tom's eyes fluttered open to darkness. Dread settled like concrete in his stomach as he pulled himself upright on the cold ground. Was he still trapped? Had he awakened anything in that moment? The air was unnaturally still, but he could sense movement, the scraping of small feet against the ground. His breaths quickened. "Join us." The shadows stood at the edge, teasing the darkness. Join us. What lay ahead? What temptations did they have for him in this threshold between life and oblivion? Tom felt the oppressive grip of despair. Could he resist? Or would he forever be ensnared in their twisted game? Darkness pressed against Tom like a heavy shroud, each breath sending a rush of cold air into his lungs. He tried to focus, to shake off the lingering numbness of whatever whirlwind had carried him here, but the shadows still loomed, whispering sweet nothings that twisted into sinister promises. He pushed back against the grasping hands that still lingered close, their touches like icy tendrils coiling around his wrists and ankles. "Join us," they sang again, seductive and mocking. The shadows pulsed, forming a web of chaos that hinted at something far grander, far more horrific than Tom could comprehend. Fear ignited in his chest, flaring like a candle. He couldn't let them win. He put one foot in front of the other and stumbled, blinded by the absence of light. Memories flooded his mind, the laughter of his friends, the tagline of their road trip, a carefree quest for thrills, all now tainted by this nightmare. "Tom." Michelle's voice echoed again, raw and desperate. "You have to fight." "But how?" He shouted into the void, urgency turning his limbs to lead. Suddenly, the laughter twisted, a harsh cackle that rang out like a gunshot. One shadow broke free of the turmoil, skirting closer. It emerged partly, and Tom could make out its features: long, bony fingers, a skin that seemed to pulse between hues of gray and black, and eyes, hollow, dark pits that seemed to suck the very life from the world. In that moment, Tom understood. This was a game, and he was the pawn. With every frozen second, they fed off his fear, relishing his hesitation. They wanted him to despair, to lose hope. He clenched his fists, recalling the warmth of Michelle's hand in his, the promise of laughter shared around a campfire. "Stop!" he shouted. "You think I'm afraid? I'll never give in." The words were shaky, but they carried strength, reverberating through the shadows. The moment stretched, silence falling heavy, pressing against him until it thudded in his ears. Then, like a dam bursting, shrieks erupted, the shadows recoiling as if scorched by his defiance. "You think you can escape?" The voice came again, more assertive now. The twisted face surged forward, inches from Tom's own, hot breath wafting over him. "This is just the beginning." Tom saw Michelle again, flickering in and out like an old movie reel under a faulty projector. Her presence ignited something fierce within him. "I'll find you," he shouted, focusing all his will on that single moment of clarity. "Tom," she whispered, her image stabilizing momentarily before flickering out again. Then, something shifted. The ground beneath him tremored, and the darkness escalated into a tempest, shadows swirling violently around him. Was he being pulled deeper? Towards chaos, or something worse? He made a choice. He turned his back on the howling madness and ran, forcing his feet to push against the yielding earth. With each stride, the laughter grew more furious, mocking his desperate attempt to escape. He could feel hands again, but this time, he pushed through, envisioning the warmth of the light that seemed miles away. "Let me go!" he yelled, thrashing, feeling a surge of adrenaline. The shadows writhed, slashing at him, desperation oozing from their howls. But he was still running, his heart racing, pounding against the walls of his chest. The laughter turned to shrieks as Tom spotted a faint flicker in the dark, something barely visible beyond the dense weave of shadows. He sprinted towards it, breath ragged, pulse racing, intent on the escape he could taste. Yet, just as his fingers stretched toward the light, the shadows surged back, stronger than before, and he felt the cold grasping again at his wrists and ankles. "Join us," they chanted, now a cacophony of voices too familiar for comfort, their promises filling the air with suffocating dread. He gritted his teeth, gripping the fading memory of Michelle tightly in his thoughts. That light was not just an escape, it was an anchor. But was it too late? As the laughter crescendoed into delirium, what choice would Tom make? Would he fall into their embrace, or break free against all odds? The shadows danced around him, teasing the edges of his resolve, as he prepared for one last push toward the unknown, and then, silence fell again, leaving him suspended in darkness. The echoes of his heartbeat drummed in his ears as the disturbance settled all around him. What awaited him in the stillness? Did a door stand ajar, or was he still just a pawn trapped in a game much larger than he understood? The air was thick, almost viscous, wrapping around Tom as he stood frozen in the darkness. Shadows lingered close, hesitant yet persistent, like hungry wolves waiting for a moment of weakness. Every instinct screamed at him to move, but the ghostly whispers held him in place, digging into his thoughts with cruel precision. "Tom," a voice echoed again, softer this time, as if the shadows themselves were coaxing him. He felt a flicker of hope igniting within even as the dread pressed against it, threatening to snuff it out. "You're stronger than this," he remembered Michelle's eyes, the laughter they shared. Would she want him to give in? No. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about all of them, his friends and their laughter, their plans twisted into something grotesque by this dark force. "Get away from me!" he yelled defiantly, irritation fueling his strength. The darkness shrieked in response, 1,000 voices rising to a panic-fueled crescendo, each one laced with rage. With every ounce of will, Tom shoved the fear back. He pushed forward, feet pounding against invisible ground, heart racing with the effort. He didn't know where he was going, only that he had to go somewhere, anywhere but here. The shadows writhed, trying to grip him again. He zigzagged, dodging unseen hands, feeling their icy breath on his neck. "You can't escape!" they screamed, relentless. But a pulse of light flared through the blackness, growing brighter with each staggered step. It felt real, tangible, a sanctuary amidst the chaos. Desperation drove him. He lunged forward, reaching out with his hand. Was it real? Then, just as quickly, the light flickered, dimming under the pressure of the shadows encroaching. "No!" he grunted, furious and terrified, forcing himself to drive deeper. The shadows screamed, discordant and chaotic, but the light pulsed again, calling like a beacon in the night. Tom threw himself towards it, his heart hammering. He felt the warm glow surround him like an embrace, pushing back against the night. Was this the end? Or just another game? Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, hissing in a language he didn't understand. Searing heat flooded his surroundings, wrapping him in an intoxicating warmth that felt almost like a down comforter on a freezing night. For a heartbeat, he thought he had won. That maybe, just maybe, he was free. But then fingers like iron gripped his shoulder and spun him around. He gasped, staring into the hollow pits of that familiar shadow, a face once lost surfaced, twisted by eternal hunger. "You can't come here!" it snarled, voice laced with betrayal. "You belong to us." Tom stumbled backward, breathless, mind racing. Something cold crept in, fear, gnawing, relentless. Was Michelle trapped in this darkness too? Did she face this shadow? "I won't let you take her!" he shouted defiantly. The shadow lunged, eyes flickering with rage, mouths twisted in maniacal joy. Tom turned, sprinting with everything he had, the ground shifting beneath him, still feeling their relentless pull. The light flickered again, and the pitch diminished for an instant, but it wasn't gone. He could chase it. He had to. The terror of losing her rose again, and with it, a fierce determination ignited, but he knew, deep down in the pit of his stomach, that with each moment he lingered, they were waiting, watching. "Why do you fight?" The shadows hissed, a cruel laughter echoing in the void. "You cannot win. The light cannot hold you." Desperate, he pressed on, sweat sliding down his back, heart racing with panic. But then something shifted. The darkness cracked like glass. A fissure opened, radiating blinding light that made his eyes squint. He blinked, caught between two worlds, one holding him tight and the other promising escape. With a roar, he surged forward, but the shadows thickened, their icy hands battling against his resolve. "Join us," echoed all around, a seductive plea mingling with desperation. "You'll never leave." Suddenly, Tom lost his footing, tumbling through the gaping chasm and straight into the light, but he wasn't sure where he was. Was it freedom, or just another nightmare? He landed hard on the ground, momentarily breathless. Around him lay a sprawling, terrifying landscape that twisted and pulsed with chaotic energy. His heart sank, dread pooling in his stomach. As he looked around, panic set in again. Was this what the light promised? A figure emerged from the swirling mist, familiar yet obscured, and in that moment of fragile clarity, he couldn't shake the dread whisper that echoed in his mind. What had he entered? The ground quaked, shadows shifting just beyond the edge of sight, laughter haunting him while the light flickered with uncertainty. As dread rolled over him, Tom realized this was only the beginning. What sinister challenge awaited him now? He took a shuddering breath and stepped forward, ready to confront whatever lurked within the depths of the unknown. The ground shivered beneath Tom's feet, echoing with a low, ominous rumble that hinted at danger, a warning that sent chills racing up his spine. Shadows danced just beyond the reach of the flickering light, silhouettes of creatures stirring, their shapes shifting like smoke. He squinted, trying to focus, but each time he thought he caught a glimpse, they darted away, their laughter wrapping around him like a deathly shroud. "Tom!" The voice from before slithered back into his mind, now taunting, sweetly sinister. "You thought you could escape the darkness? You foolish boy." He clenched his fists, biting back terror. "Where are you?" he shouted, throwing his voice into the swirling mist. It cast an eerie echo that clung to the air. Silence answered him, thick and suffocating. The weight of the shadows bore down, suffocating him. The flicker around him dimmed with each breath he took, each heartbeat twisted in the chest of uncertainty. Suddenly, the mist thickened, swirling erratically as if alive. He spun around, desperate, trying to make sense of where he was. Shapes seemed to materialize, faces, eyes, defining features found in the depths of nightmares once long tucked away. Many were distorted, twisted in a grimace of unhinged hunger. A cold sweat plastered his shirt to his back. "Get away from me!" he yelled again, this time with less certainty. The thought of Michelle, entangled in this chaos, sent shooting bolts of hope and fear through him. From the chaos, a singular figure stepped forward, illuminated by the trembling light. It looked almost human, tall, with features that belied familiarity. Heart racing, Tom strained for recognition. The figure's eyes glinted like black glass, devoid of any warmth or empathy. "Tom, don't you see? You're among friends." The voice was silk, dripping with malice. "We've been waiting for you." Tom's stomach dropped. Friends? What twisted game were they playing? He backed away, adrenaline pooling in his veins. "I'm not your friend," he shouted, trying to assert some control. "I want to leave." "Leave?" The figure laughed, the sound echoing through the darkness like the ringing of a twisted bell. "Why would you want to leave? This is where you belong. This is your true family." "Family?" The shadows surged, a tide of black that crashed against his resolve. Images flashed in his mind, his friends, laughing under the sun, carefree. Then those memories warped, twisted into contorted faces, haunting smiles that promised betrayal. Anger flared within him, he wouldn't let them win. "You're lying." "Am I?" The figure whispered, the shadows twisting further. "You could join us. You could be free of your worries. Embrace the darkness, Tom. You'll never be alone again." The pressure enveloped him, pulling him toward the sinister embrace of the shadows. It pressed closer, thrumming almost like a heartbeat, relentless in its invitation. "No." He dug in his heels, fighting the inevitable tide. "I know what you are." "Do you?" The shadows laughed, a cacophony of voices merging, each one a reminder of his fears. "What if the shadows are merely your reflection? Are you so sure you'd rather be with the light?" The ground trembled again, cracks widening, revealing endless chasms of darkness. Beneath him, the abyss waited, a yawning mouth ready to swallow him whole. He felt sweat rolling down his temples, panic rising with it. With a new surge of determination, Tom dashed toward the dim light ahead, but the shadows clawed at him, pulling him back. "Embrace this, Tom. You're losing the fight." They hissed, reaching with icy fingers, threatening to drag him down. Finally, he reached the fading light, his fingers brushing against its warm surface. It felt so real, yet something pulled at his heart, a stark reminder that hope might be an illusion. The figure lunged for him, the distorted face contorting in rage. "Join us, Tom. You can't escape." Just as he felt the grip of the shadows close in, he plunged into the light, but instead of salvation, he was met with a terrifying expanse of white, and with it, a question. Where was he heading now? As the figures of his past haunted him from the edges of his sight, Tom realized he had unknowingly embarked on a journey darker than he could fathom. Ahead, shadows whispered, mockingly, their voices thundering in unison. "Your worst fears are just beginning." Tom, with the abyss looming behind him, he desperately searched for a way out, but there was only the pulsating horizon ahead, the unknown beckoning once more. What reality awaited him beyond this veil? The brightness blinded him, but it felt like an escape, a chance to breathe. Tom kept running, his heart a wild drum echoing against the walls of this white void. Each step sent a shudder through his legs, a desperate flight from the darkness that nipped hungrily at his heels. "Where are you going, Tom?" The question floated in the air, curling around him like smoke. It was the same voice, warped and grating, mocking his every move. The shadows loomed larger now, creeping just outside the bounds of his sight, their laughter harmonizing into an unsettling symphony that made his skin crawl. "I'm not afraid of you," he shouted, even as the tremor in his voice betrayed him. The white space felt like a blank canvas, yet he could sense strokes of ink bleeding in from the edges, streaks of darkness encroaching, twisting, hungry for a name. Then, the ground beneath him began to tremble, vibrating with an urgency that felt alive. The flickering light that surrounded him swayed as if it faced a storm. Everything started to swirl, the white, the dark, the magic and the horror, a dance of chaos that lost its choreography. Tom stumbled, caught between worlds. He ducked down, covering his head as an oppressive weight bore down like a malignant force ready to crush him. But then he glimpsed something, a flicker at the center of the maelstrom. A glimmer of flesh and bone. A figure emerged from the white, a shadow breaking the bounds of light. It was familiar yet grotesque, twisted by the surreal landscape. It looked like Michelle, but warped in ways he couldn't comprehend. Her eyes held an emptiness that sent icy spikes of fear coursing through him. "Tom!" she cried, reaching out, her shadowy hand extended with an eagerness that chilled him to the bone. "Come back. I'm here. Don't you recognize me?" "No." He recoiled, stepping back, but the shadows pulled tighter around him, binding him in a way he couldn't escape. "You're not her. You're not real. Who are you to say what is real?" The voice echoed through the void, merging with the image of Michelle, morphing to showcase a sickening grin. "We all wear masks, Tom. Even you. Don't you want to know which one is yours? In an instant, memories flooded back, fragments of laughter, warm sunlight, her smiles, but also betrayal. Tom felt bile rising in his throat, visions of their friendship warped and distorted into nightmares. Stop! He screamed, feeling his own mind unraveling. The shadows around him danced, pulling the edges of reality behind them, making him question where the truth lay. I won't give in. The entity that resembled Michelle lunged, but Tom felt something shift. An instinct sparked within him, a stubborn resolve. Ignoring the comfort her presence promised, he shouted, "You're nothing but a lie." As soon as the words left his lips, the void constricted, darkness and light colliding with a cacophony of despair. It pulled, purged, and pushed him back, spiraling into chaos. Suddenly, Tom found himself falling, the solid ground slipping away. He plunged into a thick darkness, the churning grind of fear beneath him morphing into a loud, piercing shriek, the shadows screaming as he fell deeper into their grasp. This wasn't over, he realized. The shadows were clever, they knew his fears, his memories, and they played them like a song. But within that melody, he found a note of defiance. Somewhere in this never-ending abyss, he had to find a way to escape them, to silence their lies. His hand clawed through the darkness, reaching for something, anything that could provide a lifeline. No more faces, no more voices. He couldn't shake the idea that somewhere amidst it all, the real nightmare lay waiting for him. Confrontation wouldn't just be with the shadows. It would force him to confront himself. And just ahead, in the heart of the ink, another pair of eyes glinted, a promise of revelation, or perhaps, his final undoing. What awaited him in the dark? Would he find answers or be swallowed by the very nightmares he sought to escape? Tom fell through the murky darkness, every instinct screaming for him to grab hold of something solid, anything that could anchor him. The air was frigid, wrapping him tighter as he plunged deeper. The cacophony of shadows erupted around him, their laughter twisting into shrieks of agony that resonated in his bones. They were closing in, suffocating him with their relentless grip, but then a pulse of light glimmered ahead, piercing through the blackness like a star in a pitch-black sky. Tom latched onto that hope, the warmth flooding his veins like fire. Gathering his strength, he pushed against the crushing weight, his heart beating with a fierce determination. He kicked his legs and clawed his arms, not allowing the damp chill around him to take him down. Tom! A voice broke through the chaos, achingly familiar. It was Michelle. "Hurry, I'm here." Michelle. His voice cracked but fueled with urgency. He lunged toward that light, feeling the shadows clawing at his ankles, pulling him back into the depths. The closer he got, the more he could sense her presence, feel the love they shared, their laughter echoing like distant chimes. "I'm coming," he shouted, forcing every ounce of hope into his words. With one last sprint, he burst through the encroaching darkness, tumbling into a clearing drenched in blinding light. But it was different now, a pure white light that felt like a sunbeam piercing through the thickest fog. He gasped in relief, sunlight warming his skin, chasing away the chills from the shadows. There was no immediate sign of Michelle, but he could sense her, her spirit intertwined with that warm embrace. "Tom," her voice whispered again, this time right behind him. He turned, and there she was. Michelle, more radiant than he'd ever seen her. A smile broke across her face, illuminating the shadows lurking just outside the perimeter of their safety. "You found me. Where have you been?" He rushed forward, wrapping her in a firm embrace. The warmth seeped through him, healing the gaping wounds the darkness had dug into his heart. "I was trapped, Tom. They wanted to take me, but I held on. I knew you'd come." Her eyes twinkled with determination, and together they stood against the encroaching gloom. The shadows lingered, eyeing them with hungry malice, furious they had found each other. "They want to break us," Tom warned, gripping Michelle's hand tighter. "They want to make us give in. Then we won't." She said resolutely, the shadows inching closer to their sanctuary. The laughter shifted into sinister whispers, but they held firm, their bond acting as a barrier against the dark. "Look!" Tom pointed to an opening just beyond the light, a crack splitting through the fabric of shadows, shimmering with potential. "If we can get there, we might escape." "Yes. We just have to stick together." Michelle nodded, her determination radiating like a beacon. They unlatched their fingers but kept them close. Every step became harder as the shadows hissed and grasped at their ankles. But with every ripple of fear, they only drew strength from each other. The closer they got to the light, the more the shadows writhed, their laughter turning to shouts of rage, demanding their return. "Keep going," Tom urged, as insidious hands curled around his legs. But he wouldn't let go. Drawing from their shared love, he propelled them forward, a powerful force against the sinuous dark. Their strides quickened, heartbeats echoing in unison, until they burst through the thresholds of shadow and collided with that pure, vibrant light. A blinding flash enveloped them, momentarily leaving them breathless, yet filled with a sense of victory and liberation. The darkness peeled away, revealing a vast landscape of sunshine and endless possibilities. "This is it!" Tom exclaimed, looking around in awe. Gone were the cold shadows, replaced by vibrant colors, the hills, the trees, everything bursting with life. "Is this real?" Michelle asked, her voice teetering on disbelief. "It doesn't matter," he replied, pulling her close. "We made it out. Together." They watched as the shadows flickered on the horizon, a fading memory stripped of their power. The oppressive weight lifted, leaving them in a world drenched in warmth and clarity. And for the first time in what felt like an eternity, they breathed freely, their laughter blending with the rustling of leaves, pure joy cascading through them. As they took their first steps into this new world, Tom felt hope swell within him, a reminder that love anchored them. Despite the darkness behind and the uncertainty ahead, they were alive, and together they would define their own fate. The nightmare was over. But together, they would forge their own story, far from the twisted shadows that had once defined them. The journey ahead beckoned, but this time, it was filled with promise. And hand in hand, they stepped forward, welcoming the light into their lives. Don't wait another moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. We want your reactions and theories flooding the comments section, so let your voices be heard. And for everyone who needs this conclusion, share this video with at least 5 friends right away. You need to support the channel. Your loyalty matters. Don't let this story slip away.